Hey folks, Raging Poo here. I've got a new deck for you today, and it is a spicy brew indeed. My commander here is Atraxa, but before I get started, I'd like to say a few things. One is that this deck tech will be a little longer than my other videos due to the complicated nature of this one. And also, I'd like to preface by saying that when I first started playing Magic, I wanted to make a deck, a very specific kind of deck, like a pillow fort style strategy. And the goal is to assemble a board state that your opponents could not interact with. And it was complicated. It included Platinum Angel and a bunch of other pieces like Sigarda, Avacyn, Privileged Position, Iona, Sakashima the Imposter, copying Iona, and a lot of other things that were just designed to make it so your opponents couldn't interact with your board, like Dovescape and other things. After doing some research on card interactions, I realized that there is one that is far more compact than what I just described, and I decided to lace it into a combo deck here, and that's what inspired me to make this list. So here it goes. There are 3 different combos in this deck, and believe it or not, which is kind of funny, there are neither of the combos, none of them are deterministic, which means that it's possible for your opponent to get out of all of them. But, however, I have yet to resolve one of these combos and not just won the game immediately, either through concession or having a dominant board position. So here are the 3 combos. The first one is Platinum Angel plus Mycosynth Lattice plus Null Rod. The interaction between Mycosynth Lattice and Null Rod makes it so that it basically shuts off the entire board. Nobody can produce mana anymore by tapping permanents or sacrificing enchantments or any other way that you would normally be able to produce mana. It just completely shuts off all of them. This does not say unless they are mana abilities. It just says activated abilities cannot be activated. This turns lands into artifacts. This says artifacts cannot be activated. The reason why we include Platinum Angel here is so that it ensures that we are on a winning board state. Because if you set up this combo and you're behind on board, you're basically ensuring your own defeat. So that's the first combo. The second one is Enchanted Evening plus Aura Thief and sacrificing it. This says that all permanents are enchantments. This says when he dies, you gain control of all enchantments. So you gain control of all of your opponent's permanents, which usually means you'll be able to win the game from that position. The last combo is Notion Thief plus Time Twister or Windfall. This makes it so your opponents discard their hands and you draw all the cards that they would normally draw, up to 28. So you should be able to find a way to win that way. So some of these combos are pretty expensive. With the Platinum Angel one, this is 7, 6, and 2. That's a total of 15 mana. And we have no intention of actually paying the real costs for those. So we'd like to make it happen a little faster than that. So we have a tech here, Omniscience. So the main goal of this deck is to get Omniscience in play as quickly as possible. And we have a few different ways of doing that. The main way here is Academy Rector. And when we're talking about this card, the important cards in the deck to discuss are the ways to find and the ways to kill Academy Rector. So I'm going to talk about the ways to kill him real quick. We have High Market, Sidici's Faithful, Viscera Seer, Blazing Torch, Flash, Diabolic Intent, Spawning Pit, Fanatical Devotion, Eldritch Evolution, Birthing Pod, Sidisi, and Razakat. So there's quite a few different ways to kill Academy Rector in this list. There are also ways to find the ways to kill Academy Rector. For instance, we have Crop Rotation to find High Market, and Knight of the Reliquary does the same thing. We also have Trinket Mage to find Blazing Torch. Trinket Mage package here is just get a fast mana artifact or get a piece of our combo. So I'm going to take a quick moment to discuss this card, which is definitely janky. There's no doubt about it. But this is actually one of our better ways to kill Academy Rector, and I'll explain why. So let's say you have Viscera Seer in play, and Academy Rector is also in play, and you sacrifice the Academy Rector to the Viscera Seer. You cannot choose the order in which these effects go on the stack. So what happens is that Viscera Seer's Scry trigger goes on the stack, and it is immediately followed by Academy Rector's trigger. So once this trigger resolves, you go get Omniscience, but we still have this effect on the stack that says you need to resolve your Scry. During this time, you have priority, but you can only cast instant speed spells, which means you have to pass priority around the table before you are allowed to resolve your first sorcery speed spell. This gives your opponents an opportunity to kill Omniscience with an instant speed enchantment removal spell. Whereas with Blazing Torch here, the difference is that the damage is the resolution of its effect. So when Academy Rector dies, the only trigger that is on the stack is the Academy Rector trigger, which means that Omniscience comes into play, and now we have a clean stack, and you, the active player, maintain priority, and you can resolve your first sorcery speed spell before your opponents have an opportunity to destroy your Omniscience. This is important to discuss because resolving one spell with your Omniscience is better than resolving 0 spells. Let's say you play your tutor after Omniscience resolves, then they kill it, you can search for something else and maybe try to rebuild. Whereas if it happens while the Viscera Seer trigger is on the stack, then that's it. You don't get to use your Omniscience. So there's other sacrifice outlets that work in a similar fashion. This is one of the better versions. So we have Sidici's Faithful, Sidisi, and Flash. Those are the ways to have a clean stack whenever you get your Omniscience in play. So I'm also going to take a moment to talk about Flash here. It's pretty sweet in this deck. It does triple duty. There's a couple of different things you can do here with it. So one is if we have Enchanted Evening in play and Aura Thief in hand, or if there are just powerful enchantments in play, you can flash in Aura Thief, and it dies immediately, and you gain control of all enchantments. Another thing we can do is we can flash in Academy Rector here to go get a 2-mana Omniscience. If you have these 2 cards in your hand, that's a pretty sweet deal. And the last one is Flash and Protean Hulk. I'm sure some of you have already heard or already know the interaction between Flash and Protean Hulk. I have another list that's much more tuned than this one. I put it as a tier 1 list, and it's highly optimized, and there's a lot of different interactions. I'll cover that deck eventually in the future, but I'm not going to cover it today. It's called Flash Hulk Rector Pattern, and I play it competitively at the shop in my town. There's 2. One is competitive and one is casual, and I play it at the competitive shop because people are usually playing tier 1 lists there. I personally play Brews. I don't copy anyone's list verbatim. It takes the enjoyment out of the game for me, but I don't hold a grudge against other players who choose to do that because people are entitled to do whatever they want to do, and people find enjoyment in this game in different ways, and I understand that. So I'm kind of getting off topic here, but this is not your normal Flash Hulk build. We're not doing the same thing that you would normally do. Many of them are graveyard-based combos with Necrotic Ooze or Laboratory Maniac to win the game immediately. But that's not exactly how we do it here. So I'm going to explain what happens in this line. So we flash in Protean Hulk. We do not pay its cost, so it dies. The first creatures that we get are Viscera Seer and Karmic Guide. We use Karmic Guide to return Protean Hulk, and then sacrifice it again with Viscera Seer. This time, we get Phantasmal Image and Academy Rector. Phantasmal Image copies the Karmic Guide, returning Protean Hulk. We leave Academy Rector in play for the next action, which is to sacrifice Protean Hulk one last time, this time getting Sidisi and any other 1-drop creature. It doesn't really matter. We use Sidisi to sacrifice the Academy Rector because we can choose the order in which these triggers happen, and that way we can search first and then get our Omniscience and then play our first spell, which in this case we would search up Razaketh. We play Razaketh, and we have quite a few creatures in play due to what we just did. So the first step is to sacrifice one of these creatures to get Grand Abolisher. Once he is in play, then we can proceed to go off safely, knowing that our opponents cannot interrupt what we plan to do. Once you have Razaketh in play, if at any moment your opponents try to stop you or interact with you, then you can sacrifice one of your other creatures to get either Pact of Negation, Swan Song, or Mana Drain. That's our counter magic suite. There's not very much. There's actually not very much interaction in this deck, period. We have one Cyclonic Rift to bounce pesky permanents and a few stacks effects that I will discuss later. But once Grand Abolisher is in play, then we can sacrifice 3 other creatures to get Platinum Angel, Mycosynth Lattice, and Null Rod. Or set up one of our other combos if we'd like to do that, although this is the hardest lock, thus the name Turbo Lock. And that's exactly what we're trying to do here. So, that is the Flash Hulk line. I'm also going to talk about the Flash Rector line. So you flash in Rector, and what you need after you get your Omniscience in play is you need a card that will allow you to put a creature directly into your hand. We have a few of those in the deck, like Demonic Tutor, Diabolic Intent, although this requires that you have an additional creature to sacrifice. Eladamri's Call. Grim Tutor, even things like Survival and Fauna Shaman, depending on the contents of your hand. So there's a few different ways to do it. And if we have one of these cards, we have Omniscience in play, and we have a creature tutor, then this is the line. We search up Runescarred Demon. We play Runescarred Demon, getting Phantasmal Image. We play Phantasmal Image, copying Runescarred Demon, this time searching for Razakath. We play Razakath. We sacrifice Phantasmal Image to Razakath, this time searching for Revelark. Now we play Revelark, sacrifice it via Razakath to return Phantasmal Image, copying the Runescarred Demon. Now we have 2 triggers on the stack, 2 tutors on the stack. So we search up Grand Abolisher and Platinum Angel. If no one interferes with the Grand Abolisher, then you still have 2 Runescarred Demons left over to sacrifice to get the other 2 pieces, Mycosynth Lattice and Null Rod. So that is the Flash Rector line, which is slightly different than the Flash Hulk line. So I guess I'll talk about the stacks pieces here real quick. These are here to slow down our opponents, and we can go off from very minimal resources, so chances are it's going to impact our opponents more than it's going to impact us. We also have Opposition here, which is really sweet interaction with these 2 cards because you can tap down your creatures to tap them down so that it only affects your opponents and it doesn't affect you. You can also tap down the permanents that they untap, so that it will make it very difficult for them to interact. We also have this card here, As Foretold, which is here for a couple of reasons. One is it operates great in this stacks environment that we have here. And also, if something happens to Omniscience, like someone searches our library and exiles it, or they destroy it, or it gets exiled some other way, then we have a backup way to cast these 3 pieces. And we can continue to cast spells after our lock has been assembled. So at the end of this video series, I'm going to talk about the ways to get out of this lock, of which there are very few. In the last video, I will discuss these ways. If you think you know, feel free to guess on this video, the deck tag, and put in the comment section what you think you would do to get out of this. And there are not very many ways, period, in Magic to get out of it. So if you think you know, then guess, and if you nail it, then I'll be surprised because it's actually pretty difficult. So I think I've covered just about everything I want to cover here. One of the things, I'm not sure if I said this or not, but I'd put this deck as a tier 2 or tier 3, even though it has very competitive things it can do. It can win the game on turn 1. It's weak to interaction, and it's not as consistent as my other Flash Hulk decks. So I'm going to put it as a tier 2 or a tier 3, even though, like I said, it's very powerful and it can win the game on turn 1. So let's watch some games.